and welcome back to a special edition of InGalactic's Opinion, where I am going to be reviewing the Acer Iconia Tab A500. Now, I have been talking about this tablet on my channel for a little bit, and I just haven't had a chance to review it as things have been very busy with college life and work, etc. But now that I am having a look at it, I'm just going to be taking a quick look at the externals of the device, as well as the operating system itself, which is of course Android Honeycomb 3.0. There is that 3.2 update, but I'll explain more about that later. Now, this device, I managed to pick one of these tablets up for 250 Australian dollars. Now, basically, the story with this was that a retailer on the mainland of Australia was having a 50% off sale for the entire range of Acer Iconia tablets, which means that the devices went down from 500 to 250 for 3 days. I managed to pick one up as soon as I found out about the sale, thus benefiting from the rather ludicrously priced device. For all it's worth, the Iconia Tab A500 is an amazing device for $250. Nowadays you can get them for around $370-ish, and they still are a pretty good buy for that price. So I'm going to dive into the hardware side of things, what connectivity as far as ports are concerned, as well as the operating system itself, and then also some applications, and hopefully I will also talk about a few applications that I have used, and in the future videos I'm going to be talking about applications that I use on an everyday basis. And yes, if you're wondering, the screen did just change from a video editor to a polar bear standing on ice. Anyway, let's get on with the review. Okay, so here we have the Acer Iconia Tab A500. Now basically this is a 10.1 inch tablet, and it is supposed to be in competition with all of the other vast myriad of tablets out there running Android 3.0. Now this did come out around the same time as the Motorola Xoom, so you can kind of think of it as a competition device to the Motorola Xoom, and I'm supposing the iPad 2 as well. Now the only comment as far as the exteriors are concerned is it is quite a nice tablet to look at. It does have a very smooth brushed aluminium back on the back of the device, and then it does have the various ports running along the side. And it does have various connectivity ports running along both the smaller sides of the tablet as well. As far as cameras are concerned, you do have a VGA on the front, and then you have the 5 megapixel on the back. Now, as I said, they do have quite a few connectivity ports, and I really feel like this is the strong point. This is where the Acer Iconia really shines in the face of its competition. Now, basically, on the top here, you have the micro SD card and the 3G card slot. If you have bought the 3G model, you do get the option for the 3G SIM card there, but there is the micro SD card port there as well. And in this model, mine is only Wi-Fi only, so that is grayed out. Now, of course, you do have the screen lock and the volume rocker on the side there, and then on the other side we have the docking port, and then we also have the USB port and the mini USB port, which you use to connect for data, and then the USB port you can use to plug in either a keyboard or flash drives or whatever it is that you want. And I really feel like that USB port is very much a feature that is very desirable on a tablet. You have the proprietary charging port, and then on the other side you have the mini HDMI, and you have the headphone and power key. Now, basically, the only drawback to this design as far as the size of it is concerned is that it is a tiny bit chunkier and heavier than the competition. So, for example, it is about 100 grams heavier than the iPad 2, and also as far as width is concerned, it is slightly chunkier than some of the other tablets out there. Not so much you notice in hand; it is quite light, and I mean, in competition to any kind of laptop or ultrabook, it is fairly comparable. So, on the whole, it is a very portable device like you would want in a tablet, but be aware that it is a tiny bit heavier and chunkier than the iPad 2, for example, and I believe the Motorola Xoom as well. It is around the same weight as the Motorola Xoom, but people say that it does feel a little bit chunkier in the hand than the Xoom does, and I think this just boils down to the design and the overall weight distribution of the device. So moving on to the internals. Now, as far as internals are concerned, this tablet comes with an NVIDIA Tegra 250 dual-core 1 GHz A9 processor. It has, of course, the ultra-low power GPU from NVIDIA, that is responsible for all of the graphics side of things. This model comes with 16 gigs of flash memory and 1 gig of RAM. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, it is a 10.1 inch 1280 by 720 display, and as you can see here, the display is quite glossy, and you can see my reflection there in the screen. Now, generally speaking, when you're indoors, you won't notice the screen reflection. I am recording next to a window, so you are going to notice a bit of reflection. But as far as the actual performance of the device is concerned, it is very smooth in landscape mode, and then when you flip it over to portrait mode, there is a little bit of screen stuttering, which does seem a little bit strange. It seems a little bit more sluggish in the portrait mode. When it's in landscape, which is its default orientation, it works quite nicely. Now we'll just have a quick poke around Android 3.0 and we'll see how the device performs. Now, as far as Android Honeycomb tablets are concerned, you get a fairly standard selection of applications, and to that I'm not really that fussed over the standard selection of applications. They give you the essentials, but of course you have access to all of the fantastic applications that are available in the marketplace. So I have installed quite a number of applications on this. I've been using it for almost 2 months now, and really I'm actually using it to fill all college needs. So I have a lot of note-taking applications, office suites, and things of that nature. As far as web browsing and all of those normal everyday tasks are concerned, you aren't waiting around at all. The device is very snappy, and really I found it to be a pleasure to use as far as those things are concerned. When it comes down to multimedia stuff, it does tend to slow down only a tad. Photo browsing and that sort of thing, you do get Photo Browser 3D, which is like Acer's own photo browsing album, and basically you can just flip through photos. You can just basically flip through photos like they're a storybook, and as you can see at this stage, it doesn't really lag that much. Sometimes it can jump a bit between photos, but and all of these photos, by the way, are ones that I've taken with the 5 megapixel camera, so they do come up pretty nicely. But honestly, the autofocus is none too impressive in my opinion. So that was Photo Browser 3D, and then they also give you an interesting kind of shelf analogy here with the default icons. Now, usually these are on the first workspace, but I moved them along to the second just because I'm not using them that much. And it's simply like a bookshelf where you can flick between your reading apps, your social apps, your multimedia apps, and your games. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive in my opinion, as you do have to manually add applications from your list of ones that you have installed. So it is a little bit, I mean, unless you want to spend the time filling this thing up, it's not really that useful, which is why I haven't really gone to any trouble in trying to customize it. The default app launcher is good enough, and there are plenty of other app launchers in the marketplace that you can use. Now, as far as battery life is concerned, it is rated around 10 hours for the battery life on video playback. And honestly, I can definitely say it does last around that long. Although I have not used it for 10 hours unplugged continuously, I've sometimes let it go without charging for 2 or 3 days, and the lowest it's ever gotten is about 16% of battery. So I can definitely say that it does last the full 10 hours, at least in my experience. Things that do, of course, chew it up are the more CPU intensive ones, so like decoding video, watching long movies, playing graphics intensive games, etc., and so forth. Now, the resolution on this screen is very nice indeed. Now, it's a bit hard as there is a bit of reflection on the screen at the moment, but the screen overall is fairly nice. It does get a bit smudgy, and especially in sunlight you will notice the smudges. It does come, of course, with a cleaning cloth in the box, but beside the point, the screen's very responsive. It doesn't usually tend to mess up as far as touch typing is concerned. It is usually quite accurate. And just as an example, we'll just open up SpringPad, which is a note-taking utility, and we can just open up my stuff, and then we'll just do a new note. So then, basically, as far as keyboards are concerned, I have installed a different keyboard, so I will switch back to the stock standard Android keyboard. Now, the stock standard Android keyboard is okay. The predictive text is not the most intuitive out there, which is why I think the need is filled quite nicely with several other keyboards out there in the marketplace. But as you can see, as far as typing is concerned, it is quite a comfortable keyboard to type on. So if I just test You can see that after a little bit of getting used to, it is easy enough to type on, and it does pick up the right text eventually. Now, as far as typing for long periods of time on this, I have actually done it. A lot of my assignments, 3,000 word essays, etc., I was able to type entirely on the device, which is pretty impressive considering you are typing on a touchscreen. But I think the stock standard keyboard that comes with Android is not quite up to par as far as predictive text and all that sort of thing is concerned, so sometimes you can find yourself going a bit back and forth. Having said that, it is more responsive and it is lighter on resources than the ones that you buy through the marketplace. Now, the one that I found to be the best through the marketplace is Thumb Keyboard 4, and that one I'm going to be reviewing at a later date, along with some other Android apps. But basically, this keyboard is quite nice in that it has arrow keys on the side here, and then it also has a split mode. So when you're hanging onto the device in landscape mode, you can simply thumb type like you would a mobile phone. Now, the predictive text on this does work quite nicely, and you can set it to go through things like your emails and your messages to see what words you commonly use, and it will adapt the dictionary accordingly. So this is the keyboard that I've been using to type most of my work on, and honestly it works quite nicely. Now, of course, you do get the GPS navigation in here, as well as Google Maps and the navigation software, so that works fine, and I have used that on quite a number of occasions both in the car tethered to my mobile and just on street level. Now, this is running Android 3.0 by default, but I believe there is an update available for 3.2, as there is about a 400 meg update waiting, but I just haven't had the chance to do that yet. The marketplace is definitely becoming one of the better app stores in the world today, and it is now offering both applications and books. So you can come in here and you can see staff picks for tablets, top paid, top free, editor's choice, and top grossing, and top new paid, top new free, etc, etc, and so forth. And then you can also see, once the banners load up the top, you get some nice banners that you can swipe through. That is quite pretty, and it's quite intuitive, and it's quite responsive as well. Now, if I go into books and reference, Google Books is constantly expanding at this stage, and you can see that we have quite a few books here available. Again, we get the banner up the top here that tells us which books are top grossing, and you can see Steve Jobs' biography has shown up there. And then you've got all the different categories here, like new arrivals in fiction, non-fiction, etc., the top rated, and then your categories down the side here. So they do have an ever-increasing collection of books here, which is pretty impressive, and considering the very portable nature of the tablet and its e-reading capabilities, it is good to see that they are really capitalizing on the book market. Now, I can't really compare it too heavily to an iPad 2, as I haven't had that much experience with an iPad 2, but I think with the right selection of applications, you can really have a powerful device here. It does have capabilities to do whatever you really want it to, as far as basic word processing, web browsing, note-taking, e-reading, watching movies, taking photos, viewing photos, editing photos, that sort of thing. Of course, you can't really do things with much power, as you are limited to the 1 GHz dual-core processor, which isn't too shabby in my opinion, and the 1 GB of RAM. Now, what I'm looking at now is just the widgets and the application shortcuts that you can use to customize your home screens. And you can see here along the top, I have the 5 different home screens that you can add more if you want. And then you've also got the different widgets that run along the side, depending on what applications you have installed. So you can add Gmail, Google Plus photos, and all of those fun things. Now, I also did manage to buy a case for the Acer Iconia Tab A500, and as you can see, it does look like a bit of a fingerprint smudge. Once the camera decides to come into focus, you will notice that it does have a few fingerprints on it, and for some reason or other, that it is quite a smudgy case. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a downside. It is the official Acer case, and it does set you back about $50, at least in Australia, so it's not a cheap thing either. But for the $250 that I bought the actual tablet for, it was the price I was willing to pay to keep it protected. Now, of course, because of the fact it is one of the more popular Android tablets out there, there are plenty of accessories to choose from, including the mini HDMI cables, docking stations, all sorts of other different cases, and screen protectors, so forth and so on. Okay, so that was my look at the Acer Iconia Tab A500. Now the reason I've been holding it around here so you guys can see is just so you can get an idea as to the portability of this thing and how I would use it in everyday circumstances. Now coupled with the case which I showed earlier, it does rest quite nicely on your knee, and you can also prop it up as a bit of a photo frame as well, and it works quite nicely. Now I'd like to hear from you guys as far as whether you'd like to see more Android videos in the future. I am going to make a few detailing applications that I use on an everyday basis, ones that I enjoy using, very similar to my app reviews that I've been doing on the channel for some time now. But let me know what you thought of this review and any feedback you might have. Also, let me know in the comments below or on Twitter as to what tablet, if you have any experience with tablets, would you buy an Acer Iconia as opposed to an iPad, for example. Given the fact now you can pick up an iPad for around $500, the iPad is still considered to be the king of the tablet space as for right now. But I'd be very interested to hear your feedback on the Acer Iconia and on the tablet sphere in general. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you sometime in the very near future with more distro reviews and app reviews. Give the video a thumbs up if indeed you liked it, and consider subscribing if you would like to see more of this type of thing in the future, and also any of my other Linux and open source ventures, which there'll be no doubt down the sidebar of related videos. Anyway, I will leave you to do whatever interwebbing you were doing before you got distracted here, so have a good day everybody, and peace out.